He has a stunning face, golden curly hair, red jelly lips, but God gave him an angelic face but a demonic heart. He committed 42 robberies and took the lives of 11 people, and he never needed a motive to kill, but he never robbed for money either. He wanted to enjoy his freedom. He was Arlitos, the best-looking criminal in Argentine history. Arlitos infiltrated another mission this day. Faced with a garage full of luxury cars, he chose, for no reason at all, the broken-down motorcycle. A favorite record and an old motorcycle were his reward for the day. When his mother asked him about the origin of the motorcycle, Arlitos didn't hesitate to lie. Both parents knew the origin of these things. Otherwise, he wouldn't have changed schools. At his new school, Arlitos notices a handsome young man. In lab class, Arlitos deliberately struck up a conversation with him, but his poker face was very annoying to him. He deliberately provoked him with his firearm. His actions angered him. In the face of Arlitos' continued provocation, he directly swung his fist, so they were both taken to the principal's office. Just after he came out of the school, the boy saw Arlitos waiting outside. He began to be interested in this strange character of the boy. No discord, no concord. The teenager's name was Ramon. They soon became best friends. Ramon took Arlitos to his house, but what Arlitos didn't expect was Ramon's family were all thieves. His father was an experienced thief. He taught Arlitos how to use a gun. Arlitos was the first to feel the joy of this big toy. With a common idea, they formed a gang of thieves, and their first target was an arms store. They sneak in at night. Arlitos was insatiable and raided the guns inside, and in one of the counters, Arlitos found the 2 revolvers that had been with him all his life. Although they got a lot of loot, but Ramon's father blamed Arlitos for the time he lost because of his greed. Because one more minute they stayed at the crime scene, they would have a higher risk of being caught, but Arlitos didn't think so. He never lived for anyone else. A few days later, Ramon gave Arlitos a portion of the money from the sale of the guns, and he also brought information about their next target. It was a mansion where only an old man lived alone. At night, Arlitos was the first to enter the mansion through the skylight, but just as he was about to open the door for Ramon, he heard a noise and fired a shot backwards. The old man, who had been shot, didn't say a word. He still insisted on walking up the stairs. Then he came to a painting and stayed in front of it for a long time. He ignored them and went into the bathroom. Arlitos, who couldn't find the cash, took the painting. Finally, the old man Saturday in the bathroom and died. That morning, when his mother woke Arlitos up, she found his gun under the covers. Arlitos said it was just a toy gun, but his mother didn't believe him. So he pointed the gun at his mother's forehead. His mother was so shocked that she turned around and walked out. Arlitos knew he couldn't stay at home anymore, so he moved in with Ramon's family. In the evening, Ramon's father found him. He didn't understand that Arlitos killed the rich old man. He shouldn't have just killed someone like that, but he thinks he didn't kill the man alone. They killed him together, because they were a team. From this conversation, Ramon's father understood that Arlitos was uncontrollable. He would get them killed sooner or later. He panicked and took down all the stolen goods hanging in the house. He couldn't be sure if the police would come to him. That day they infiltrated another jewelry store. While Ramon was scavenging, Arlitos found a red safe. Such a huge safe must contain precious wealth. Arlitos proposed to open it with electric welding, but Ramon did not agree because it would increase the risk of both men being caught. Arlitos tried to persuade him. Ramon firmly opposed and intended to leave. Arlitos fired a shot at the ceiling and left, and this incident separated them. They rented a hotel to sell the stolen goods. Arlitos saw the homeless man sitting on the sidelines. He took out a jeweled brooch and pinned it on his shirt, but Ramon took it off and slapped him in the face. His display only attracted the attention of the police. Soon they found the arrogant location. This time the buyer was a famous local tycoon. He thought Ramon was a good-looking guy and promised to make him a big star. But the rich man was a gay man, but Ramon went with him to become a star. A few days later, Ramon was really on TV. Arlitos in front of the TV was puzzled. That day they met with the police on the street. They had stolen the car. They didn't have any papers. The police immediately made them get out of the car. Arlitos had to throw the gun from his waist into the grass. They were arrested. The sheriff was going to charge them with theft, but Arlitos knew there was nothing money couldn't fix. So he asked to speak to the sheriff alone. Then he offered a sum of money, but the sheriff stopped him from doing it. But he wasn't an honest cop. He didn't want the money in Arlitos' arms. He wanted all his savings. Arlitos came out, gave Ramon a look and left. He went home and took out all his savings. But just as he arrived at the door of the police station with the money, Arlitos hesitated. After thinking about it, he left. And so he left Ramon behind. After a long absence, Arlitos returned home. He looked at the meal that was already prepared on the table and ate it. It turned out that his mother had been waiting for him. Then Arlitos put the bag of money on the table. He wanted to give the money to his parents, but his father knew where the money came from. He told Arlitos to give the money back or he would call the police. But he didn't care. He got up and went to his room. In the middle of the night, his father buried the money. No father would send his child to prison with his own hands, even if his child was wrong. But the unrepentant Arlitos went back to the side of the road and picked up the 2 revolvers. And so it went on for months. Arlitos saw Ramon on the side of the road after he was released from prison. He had a new friend by his side. Arlitos found him immediately. Ramon held a grudge against him for his betrayal. He kept on trolling him with words, but Arlitos explained that when he returned to the police station, he found that it was a trap. So he didn't go in. Although Ramon was a little suspicious, but it was clear that they had feelings for each other. Ramon forgave him, and this bearded man, he is Ramon's new friend in prison and a thief, and so they were ready to take him in. They stopped a truck carrying milk. Then they quickly get out of the truck. The bearded man takes control of the driver. Ramon came to the back of the car and took out all the money for the goods. But just as they were about to leave, the driver pulled out a gun and fired. Arlitos fights back with his twin guns. Thanks to Arlitos, they escaped. They returned to Ramon's house, but the bearded man started to stir things up. He thought they were at work, but every time they robbed, Ramon's father took the money. They only get a small share. This is not proportional to the work they do. Hearing this, Arlitos didn't say anything. At that moment, Ramon's mother approached him. She ordered Arlitos to burn the car he had brought back. Although he was unwilling to do so, he did so, knowing that he and Ramon had been at odds for too long, and he made his decision. On this day, he took Ramon through the winding tunnel. Looking at the sleeping Ramon, Arlitos did not hesitate to turn the wheel. Ramon died instantly in the accident. Arlitos survived. That day, Arlitos took bearded brother to the jewelry store he had stolen from before. He began to work on the red safe, but when he opened the door, he found nothing inside. The bearded man who was waiting for him fell asleep. When Arlitos woke him up, he couldn't believe it. Such a big safe was empty. He thought that Arlitos had hidden all the treasures. He shot again at people who didn't trust him. The next day the police found him, and this time Arlitos confessed to all his crimes. And his crimes were enough to put him on the front page of every newspaper in Argentina. 11 murders and 42 robberies made him notorious. And he was sentenced to the highest sentence ever handed down in Argentina, 46 years. On this day his parents came to visit him. His lawyer advised him to fake mental illness to reduce his sentence. He thought for a moment and didn't answer, but as long as Arlitos wanted to get out, he had a way. The day he swallowed a spoon, the guards had to take him to the infirmary. But the spoon could only be removed with surgery. While the doctor was preparing the operation, Arlitos pretended to sleep. The guard believed it, and he was going to the bathroom. Just as he left, Arlitos opened his eyes. He escaped through the window of the infirmary and through the floors of the building. He eluded the guards and made his way to the prison walls. Escaping, Arlitos boarded a train home. Maybe he was homesick, or maybe he regretted it. He shed his first tears. Arlitos first went to Ramon's house, but the place was already empty. He fell asleep in the familiar bed. The next morning, Arlitos caught his mother. He knew the home was already heavily guarded, but he still wanted to see his mother one last time. So Arlitos gave his address. Then he turned on the radio and danced around the empty house. This time he was no longer alone. He would run to the freedom he wanted.